Chicago Bulls, photo by Andy Lyons, Getty Images. In our last edition of the Chicago Bulls 2019 NBA Draft Outlook, the Windy City was staring Duke phenom Zion Williamson square in the face. At 7-25, the Bulls held the worst record in the NBA a couple of weeks ago, and, if all had gone according to plan, they would have held the first overall pick in this year's draft. More from Windy CitySince. Then, the Bulls have gone 3-5 and have been knocked off their pedestal, or should I say, bumped up from the slumps. Either way you spin it, it could sound both disgusting and full of hope. Your choice. Whether or not the Bulls obtain the first overall pick in the draft remains to be seen. What we do know, however, is that this team will be picking in the top 5. I have a feeling Bulls fans would be flat-out shocked if the team finished any lower than that. Aside from nabbing themselves a shiny draft pick, the way I see it, the Bulls have to get head coach Jim Boylen out of there. It doesn't matter if you thought firing Fred Hoiberg was the right choice. Boylen has proven to be much worse. This team should, and will, continue to lose games. That's all but written in stone. The upcoming draft class is a fun one, to say the least. You should already know about the top 2 guys. If not, they'll be briefly mentioned soon. Aside from the Blue Devil duo, though, the 2019 class should find the Bulls a difference-maker in the first round. But what about the second? Let's look at the current draft outlook for Chicago, including some prospects to watch in both rounds. Page 2. Chicago Bulls, photo by Jonathan Daniel, Getty Images. Lately, the top of the league has seemed to be pulling away from the latter half. Out of the bottom 14 teams in the NBA, as of Monday night, only one of them has a winning record over their last 10 games, the Atlanta Hawks at 6-4. This is unfortunate for the Bulls' draft positioning, as they currently sit at the third worst record in the league, 10-30. The top 2 picks would more than likely go to the Phoenix Suns 2, and Cleveland Cavaliers 1. With that said, if the Bulls were to stay put at 3, barring another unlucky lottery, both Duke stars R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson would be gone. The Bulls have completed 2 trades over the course of the last week, making it more clear than ever that they are focused on seasons down the line. This year is long gone, and if they continue to lose while wheeling and dealing prior to the trade deadline, then so be it. It seems weird being satisfied with losing basketball, but if your team is going to stink, it might as well be the worst, especially when the draft prospects are this good. Speaking of which, let's look at some guys the Bulls could target with the 3rd overall pick. Next, first round targets. Page 3. Chicago Bulls, photo by Kevin C. Cox, Getty Images. Obviously, if the Bulls had one of the top 2 picks, it's either Williamson or Barrett, no questions asked. But when looking at the 3rd spot, they certainly have options. As of late, one guy in particular has leapt up draft boards. Ja Morant. PG. Murray State. Regardless of whether or not Chris Dunn is a Bull next year, Ja Morant is highly intriguing. Coming from a smaller school, Murray has caught the national spotlight recently. All season, Morant is putting up 23.3 points, 9.9 assists, 6.8 rebounds and 1.9 steals per game. He is the centerpiece of the team. He's everything for Murray State, but those numbers are gaudy. Morant has posted 9 double-doubles this season, including 1 triple-double. He isn't the best outside shooter, but his aggressiveness on offense and facilitating makes him one of the most fun players in the nation to watch. Cam Reddish. Duke. Yeah, Duke is that good. They could potentially have the first 3 guys off the board in this draft. Cam Reddish is playing third fiddle to Williamson and Barrett, but he is going to be a solid pro nonetheless. It's tough to know what he's fully capable, playing alongside the guys on that team. But Reddish has the size and skill set to be a very good player in the NBA. At 6'8" and boasting the ability to knock down triples at will sometimes, there is a lot to like. At the moment, Morant and Reddish are no. 4 in Sports Illustrated's 2019 NBA Draft Rankings. Other potential picks at no. 3. G. Kevin Porter Jr., USC, F. Nassar Little, North Carolina, PG. Darius Garland, Vanderbilt. Next, second-round targets. Page 4. Chicago Bulls, photo by Kevin C. Cox, Getty Images. Currently, the Bulls have one second-round pick in this year's draft after making that deal with the Memphis Grizzlies last week. There is always a possibility they add more, but assuming the pick comes from Memphis, let's look at some guys who could fall into the middle of the second. Memphis currently sits as the 11th worst record in the league. Zach Norvell Jr., G. Gonzaga. Bulls need to find some depth behind Zach LaVine. After letting Holiday go via trade, they've pretty much moved on to next year at the shooting guard spot. Zach Norvell Jr., out of Gonzaga, would be a great selection in the second round. Nobody is ever a guarantee at this stage in the draft, but Norvell can at least score the basketball. Typically, that's what you want out of a backup two-guard, someone who can provide a spark, offensively. Norvell is taking almost 8 three-pointers per game this season, knocking down 36% of them. Isaiah Roby, C. Nebraska. Depending on what the Bulls' front court looks like next year, they could use another guy for some depth. Bobby Portis may not return, as he is a free agent. Isaiah Roby has played more center for Nebraska, but at 6'8" he is much more suited to play the 4 spot. Next, Bulls. What the Justin Holiday trade means. Roby is a rigid defender who can match up with more than one position, and his shot has improved. He isn't a threat from outside, but Roby is shooting 49% as a whole this season. A junior, there should be no question whether or not Roby is leaving school at this point. If he continues to improve, he'll likely be a second-round selection.